But I go back to responsible AI in the sense of the importance of AI policies and the importance of establishing and leveraging these Amazon Bedrock guardrails that are out there
Hmm.
for us.
Hmm.
Because this is about making it as user friendly and
Hmm.
understanding what's under the hood, right?
Hmm.
We, again, as the whole point of us talking and having these series is not about diving deep into what's under the hood per se, or what vectoring and databasing and those different factors that play a part into building your own large language model. It's about how do you now use the services that are put in front of you to be
Hmm.
able to build your own model if you want to, so that you can do that securely as
Hmm.
well. So that's just some of the security features that my mind always goes to, right? It's just fundamentally it's in my DNA. It comes back to
Absolutely.
my DoD days. It
Yeah.
hasn't left me, right? And to me, it's just security is the core of it all in what we're trying to solve.
Absolutely. Align yourself with what DeepSeek R1 has to offer through evaluation.
Mhm.
One way you can do that is a similar way that we looked at previously. I think that we handled that last week when we looked at AI cards, or it might have been the week
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
But there are a few posts out there that AWS makes will just tell you all about the model, right? It'll give you, what it's good at, what the weak points are, and you can download it as a PDF. And now you have an opportunity to, like Coach is saying now, do your risk assessment, right? And align yourself with those frameworks and say, all right, now we're going to go into Bedrock guardrails. We're going to make sure that our internal information isn't going to be exposed, right? Yes.
Absolutely. The beautiful thing that and again, this is probably what lights me up, right? It doesn't matter what the tech is, it's how do we secure the data, right? How do we make it user friendly, is what I like to say, whether it's an enterprise customer or a small business or just someone learning about it. When I think about protection and privacy, specifically with Bedrock, is where I think about compliance, right? So
Mhm.
the really nice thing is Bedrock is compliant, grants ISO standards, SOC, CSA star level 2, HIPAA, GDR, FedRAMP high, if anyone's in GovCloud. Those are the things that, from an enterprise perspective, those are the first things that I'm looking at, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
why do I say that? As I said before, I usually tend to start with my requirements and I work backwards from that.
Mhm.
Because if it doesn't already meet the standards or the framework requirements, I
Mhm.
can't use it. I can't do anything with it, no matter how cool or shiny
Yeah.
your tool is. Because when I think about the time and effort and the money that it takes to go through these FedRAMP compliance standards, or should I say processes, it's extenuous. And this is also one of the things that I love about being able to build on that trust that's already established.
Absolutely.
Or I think about being in the cloud and many organizations having to quantify and show where they are secured. And when I think about, again, when we think about cloud, there's this partnership. There's a shared responsibility model that we did talk about when early on in the weeks.
Absolutely.
And remembering what those models are may not be something that's easy for us.
Mhm.
So AWS Artifacts is another example of where you can go and download and understand what are the security controls that are in play. Whether you're using something like the Cloud Security Alliance STAR, this is why I talk about level 2. That's
Mhm.
another factor when you think about what are
Mhm.
those controls that I need to be measured against, and
Mhm.
then how is the cloud, how is AWS handling those controls, and
Mhm.
then how should I, or how do I handle the
Mhm.
other controls that matter to me. And usually, when
Absolutely.
we think about that shared responsibility model, it's the data.
It's the
It's
data.
any customer is always going to be responsible for securing their data
Yeah.
in the cloud. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And when I say secure, who has access to the data? Is
Mhm.
the data encrypted at rest? Is it
Mhm.
in transit?
Mhm.
Those are the fundamental things when we think about security in the
Yeah.
cloud. Nothing else matters to me, at least, right?
Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
securing that data. Whether
Yeah.
we're talking about now with AI, you still need to secure that data and who has access to that data, who has access to even see or use or evaluate the information that's out there. So it's
Absolutely.
just my thought.
Yeah, coach, I was just working on a project that considers that. And we really had to, in this project at work, consider government entities and
Mm,
how, like you're saying now, it's all about the data and it starts
mhm.
there. Yeah, you can go into DeepSeek R1 and you can choose this as a foundation model, but the data that you're using to make this a custom model for you, you want to prepare that one properly. initially, right? And so you might use stuff like S3 buckets to create this, right? And to make sure that you have some good data security. And if you're going to go that route, let's say you're looking at something like FIPS 140-2, it's going to be a great idea for you to choose one of those regions in AWS that are already naturally compliant to FIPS 140-2. Yeah. So if you're in US East 1, US West 1, these are going to be some regions that will definitely already be compliant in that area, but you don't want to leave it there. Why don't you consider encryption? That data that's going to be stored for this model, eventually you got some custom model, maybe you're introducing some data there, take an opportunity to get a KMS key, right? Control access around that KMS key, get some users who need to work on that, but anybody else who don't need to work on that, make sure you create that policy to block those individuals who don't need to work on it and allow those who should. And just having a framework, like being able to look to FIPS 140-2 and be able to go through all of those kind of things that I just talked about is really nice. And you're right, Coach, it's all about the data. And I don't want folks to get the idea that the data starts when you select the foundation model. Absolutely not. You prepare that data initially, and then you associate those framework checklists right against that data. So good deal. Have your data.
And Renee, you remember last week, I think we were talking about if we were going to continue a series around the data engineering certification, right? Because when we think about AI and ML, it definitely goes hand in hand. It's the peanut butter and jelly, right?
Yes,
it goes hand in hand. And to me, it's garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you've got to understand how to engineer that data. And AWS has a new data engineering associate degree or certification as well. And I think we should extend these conversations associated with that, because when you were just speaking about the guardrails and the KMS keys around the data, my mind went to lake formation, right? My mind went to the row and column level security features within lake formation that allows us to further leverage from an enterprise perspective all that we're talking about. Data upon data. And what do we do from a business perspective? That data is all about helping us understand use cases, understand where the next insight needs to be from a business perspective, whether you're a financial analyst, a business analyst, a security professional. It's the data lake that plays a part into that, right? We've talked about data warehousing a little bit with Redshift, but it really is lake formation where my mind goes. That is such a pairing to this, like a good wine with a good steak. It's just that's probably what I need to start saying. A good wine with a good steak is my pairing, right?
No, you're absolutely right. Having lake formation sets the standard, and it sets the standard in a few ways, which I love to be paired with the conversation that we're talking about. Is how excellent is that, Coach? In lake formation, you got the opportunity to say, "Hey, I got this data lake that I want to govern, and here are the IAM users who need access to it, but I might have some third-party services, Athena databases who might need to have access. And I can have that granular option to say, you know what, these services, they don't need specific IAM roles, maybe they're third party, but they can still get access. But when I take a look at lake formation and I'm looking at my IAM roles, I'm looking at those third-party individuals or services that need to get connected. I can see who's connected. I can see how I'm setting this up. I got good governance rules. I can keep those who shouldn't have access out. Lake formation is where you start instead of having to manage all of those data locations separately.